Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Carolyn Colleen. Carolyn is a fierce mother of 3 children, author, international speaker, entrepreneur, and business strategist, focusing on helping others achieve their goals. And this is only part of her bio. Carolyn is a founder of the F.I.E.R.C.E Academy, an online program that helps women create life strategies that enable them to have the life they dream of without sacrificing their families, careers, or lifestyles. She is also the author of F.I.E.R.C.E, Transform Your Life in the Face of Adversity, 5 minutes at a time. Carolyn is also the owner of Acton Midwest private schools, where philosophy is clear thinking, which leads to good decisions lead to the right habits lead to character, and character becomes destiny. She is also a consultant thought leader for Case Western Reserve University, as a leader with the Xchange approach, and an initiative built upon a scientifically based multi-disciplinary approach for leading and managing teams. In addition, she is currently publishing a second book focused on academic entrepreneurship, and is the executive director of One Life Fully Lived, a nonprofit organization that provides people of all backgrounds the tools to achieve success. She's passionate about uniting as a human race to elevate each other, and remains positive through challenges, and to rise above the noise to build strong communities. So please welcome to the show, Carolyn Colleen. Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time today, for being here.
Thanks for having me here, Bob.
Not a problem. Well, that's only part of her bio, people, just to let you know. I mean, there's more. I had to cut some out just so we had time, but you can tell she does a lot of stuff. So, Colleen, if you can, tell us how you got to where you are today.
Well, that's an interesting story and journey. Well,
Yeah,
where do you
the
start?
short version.
The shortened version. Well, really, it's a lot of what you teach. It's truly taking a look at how do you re-engineer your life. And as you're on this journey of life, try something, course correct, try something else, right?
Yeah.
And then you're engineering your life, and
Yeah.
doing that with a repurposed twist. So taking what happened to you to happen for you.
Right.
And in my short lifetime, there's been many different trials and tribulations, and there's been many triumphs as well. Going from waiting for food at the Salvation Army with my daughter, to fast forward today, serving food at the Salvation Army with my youngest.
Wow.
There's a lot in between there.
Yeah.
I didn't wake up one day thinking I'd be at the Salvation Army. However, there are many different things in my life that contributed to being in that space. And there's also many different things that happened in my life that I had to practice and learn self-awareness in which to flip the script on what happened to me, and which to happen for me.
Great. Well, and that's, I think, a big piece of what you talk about and what you do, I think, is that idea of mindset, and how that needs to be the basis of what you do. And you said it right there. You're reframing yourself, and what happened to you. Maybe it happened for you. It's not like you wanted it to happen, but we all run into those things in life, that things occur to us, and it could be for us. We don't see it at the time. But how did your mindset shift so you understood some of these changes that needed to be made, and successes that you needed to achieve, things like that?
Yeah, it was really what I talk about in my book, which is it's called my F.I.E.R.C.E method. And that is, again, very similar to what you teach in that self-awareness, in that encouragement, is how do you get present, focus on one thing that you would like to accomplish, and just practicing that 5 minutes at a time, no matter whether you really want to or you don't. Like, just like you said, there's a lot of things that happen in life that we have no part in why it happened. And not saying it's right or wrong or indifferent, it just happens. But navigating the storm, figuring out, I look at how sometimes, you might have heard of this, particularly being in Florida, either you're in a storm, you're heading into a storm, or you just got out of one. And how do you enjoy the in-between? How do you evolve in which to repurpose the tools in order to get ready for that next storm in life. And so, to answer your question, it's really been about getting present,
Mhm.
focusing on that one thing, and then doing that 5 minutes at a time and using your emotions. So,
Mhm.
as humans, we all have emotion. When we're human, we're supposed to. It's not
Yeah.
bad. It's good. But
It's
it's
not
really how do
bad.
you
Yeah.
navigate it, right?
Yeah.
Like that fight or flight mechanism, when you get upset, and for a long time I was very angry at the situation.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
be angry.
Yeah.
That's
It's an
an
emotion.
emotion, right?
Yeah.
But it's truly what happens after. What is the action taken? And does it self-sabotage you,
Right.
cause you to spiral, or are you choosing something that serves you
Right.
in order to get to a longer term goal? And so, in that, building resilience, and also, again, what you talk about is that intrinsic motivation. And doing so by one, breathing, two, focusing, and F, for what I call fierce action. And that's exactly that which is harnessing your emotion, whatever it is, and using it as fuel to push you in a direction that serves you compared to self sabotage. In doing so, just 5 minutes at a time. Because
Right.
you could do anything you don't want to do for 5 minutes. You can do it.
Yeah.
And, and what happens is after doing this, 5 minutes turns into 10, turns into 15. Soon enough, you've gotten through a whole day.
Right.
And we've heard of this, right? One day at a
Oh,
time,
definitely. Well,
right?
it's like working out. It's like working when you work out, just that little bit. You start with one push up, then you go to two, then you go to three, then you do five, and then you're doing 10. Pretty soon you're doing a whole bunch. You've got to build that. And I think what our society pushes on us to say, in lack of a better term, that we shouldn't have to wait for anything.
Mm,
That's not how life works.
right.
We're a microwave society in a crock pot world, and it doesn't,
Mhm.
we've got to learn to be patient with that and slow down. It's interesting because your work with women, it tells them basically that you help to overcome that self-doubt. And today's society throws that at us so much. How do you help them do that?
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like you just said, that in society, there's so many things that come at us.
Yeah.
And truly sitting into your confidence. Now, some people might say, no, where do you get confidence from? And what I teach and also practice is confidence comes from within
Yeah.
and not comparing yourself to other people. So, for example, if you have two people in a company, per se, and you might have someone who's in finance, you might have someone who's maybe on the manufacturing line,
Right.
and then you might have someone who's the engineer who creates the product. Now, when you come into that work situation, if you were to say, be that person who is already has a background in finance, and then you want to come and shadow somebody who's working on the line, your confidence might come down a bit because it's something new that you
Right.
don't know. Same thing with an engineer trying to work as a finance person.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is try not to compare yourself to other people,
Right.
but honor what you do know. What do you know? Well, you know exactly how to set up that line. You know exactly how to engineer and create. You know how to, if you're in finance, look at the P&L.
Yeah.
So honor what you do know and what your strengths are. Be strong in that and try not to compare yourself to somebody else in something that you don't know, but honor and appreciate them. Because we
Right.
don't have to be good at everything, but we can be good at what we are. Just
Right.
like an athlete, when you start as an athlete, you're learning, you're growing. But something that we do is that we as humans tend to not celebrate what we know. We just continue, we just jump right into, oh, well, that other person, they're an
Yeah.
all-star athlete. Hold
Yeah.
on, they started somewhere too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. We got to remember that our value it comes from within, comes from our greater power, comes from our God. And that's a great ability that we have to grow whatever we want to do. And everybody starts somewhere. So great reminder for people. Thank you for that. So with well, you mentioned your Fierce program. What else is in your Fierce program?
Mm-hmm. So my fierce methodology, which is BFF,
Okay.
breathe, focus, and fierce action, your new best friend. And you just do that 5 minutes at a time. But how this works is truly with visioning that future.
Okay.
So when I was in survival mode, and a lot of us do live in survival mode,
Right.
um, breaking free from that and practicing 5 minutes at a time, just one thing that you can accomplish or celebrate in moving forward. So, for example, me standing in line at the Salvation Army, not knowing where my next meal would come from, not sure where I would live.
Right.
And at that point, when I was dealing with so much PTSD, flashbacks of things that never should have happened, and that fear of the unknown, just being able to take a deep breath, focus on, okay, I'm right here in the present. It's not where I want to be. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one step further in that line in which to get the food that I need and just focus on that one thing, despite the emotions,
Mhm.
using them as fuel, push me forward. Now, in doing that, getting through a whole day, next thing I know, I'm getting through a whole week. Next thing I know, I'm starting to vision toward the future to find a better situation. And then
Good.
fast forward, building a better career, getting registered for school, getting my sights on a career that I would want. And so within that, continually creating that dream and that vision, and soon enough being able to look to 3 years and look to 5 years, and then reverse engineering it. So taking that 5 year vision, reverse engineering it down to one, down to 90 days, down to a week, down to 5 minutes, which makes it very, very clear when you have a feeling of overwhelm, when you have
Yeah.
a feeling of, I don't know if I can do this, I'm lacking confidence, I'm feeling lost, remembering one, like you said, what are you meant for? And
Right.
two, what is that long term vision I'm after? And how might I break it all the way down to 5 minutes, which will make my two decisions very clear
Right.
which one serves me and which one doesn't.
Okay, great. Well, and just so the listeners know too, I understand you're almost a PhD. So, th-
Very close.
okay,
It
good for you. See, that long-term vision does pay off, people.
does
Yeah, it
with
does.
hard work.
Yes, yes, I can imagine. Well, good job. Congratulations with that. So, your help with women to, I guess, have it all, because I mean our society, if you will, throws at us again. You got to do this, you got to do that. We got to go 1,500 directions in
Mm,
30 seconds. How do you help them to? I like the 5 minute concept. I think that's a big part of it. Um, what is the benefit of the balance to balance all those things?
mhm.
Because I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, you're
mhm.
looking at one thing, but we're getting a lot of ideas and a lot of things thrown at us all at once.
All at once,
Yeah.
right? And really getting into what what are you good at? So for example, when I looked back and I was really chasing, I was trying to figure out one, how to get out of that survival mode. And I got into that growth and thriving mode. And that's also a hard transition.
Hmm.
And so as I built my career, I needed to be able to look, well, what am I good? What are my true gifts? And as I reflect back, it's truly making a timeline. And so we work through a timeline of your life, both in your professional life and in your personal life,
Okay.
and then seeking the clues. What
Okay.
is it that your God given gifts are? What are your strengths? And unique to you, not anyone else.
Yeah.
And for me, when I went through this exercise that I now teach, it was brilliant in that, how do I make sense of things? And then how do I build a career out of it and create fulfillment? And
Right.
so if you think about it, if you know how, and if you've figured out how to map out getting from the bus stop to the food pantry to to class, right? To I went into college and then with no vehicle, right? So while I'm carrying my daughter and
Right.
her baby bag and not miss the bus,
Right.
what kind of career does that make?
Right.
Well, I figured out that makes a strategist. You
Yeah.
can weave in and out, get there efficiently, with an overall outcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pursue that career because it's something I'm good at.
Right.
And I just need to pick up some resources and some tools to add to it. So, where does your passion meets your talent and meets your opportunity in the market for it? And
Right.
then the key is, as you've navigated and as you've figured out something really great for yourself, our obligation is then to pay it forward.
Right. Great. Great reminder. I mean, and that's one of the things I think our society is starting to learn. I'll say it that way, that, the mothers are very versatile in the workplace. You talk about, you want to get something done, you hand it to a mother, she'll get it done. It's just the multitasking experts, and
Yes.
it's, I commend you for doing that, because I know that's a lot. I mean, taking care of a little one, and like you said, trying to catch a bus, and then you got class who's going to watch the child. It's a balancing act, and that's, that was good. You were able to take that moment and focus on, okay, here's something I can do. And I think that's
Mhm.
important for people to realize that we need to do that. I understand the idea of got bills to pay and things like that, but also take the time to realize your value and what you're good at and where that can take
Mhm.
you. Oh, great. Well, great. I appreciate that. You mentioned relationships, and it seems to be key in our growth. How do you help people, or do you show them how to build relationships? Because our society doesn't seem to, as we go, I'm going to go back to the idea we're going so fast all the time. How do you help them to stop and build those relationships? I think that's critical.
Oh, it's so critical. And the most important piece is relationship with self.
Okay.
So, it's interesting when we think about networking, when we think about relationships, truly, it's first starting with yourself, getting to know yourself. Who am I? Who am I at my core? Who
Okay.
do I love? Do I
Yeah.
do I enjoy being outside? Do I enjoy being inside? Do I enjoy being in social situations? Do I enjoy smaller groups? Like, who am I at my core?
Mhm.
Accepting and loving that. And then stepping out to really understand who is in your sphere. Because we all have people in our sphere.
Mhm.
And you're familiar with where the average of the 5 people we hang with,
Yeah.
right? And so whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
and how do you figure out who those 5 people are? Well, you better check your text messages because that's who they are. And then
Yeah.
taking a look at, all right, are those people lifting you up or
Right.
are they kind of pulling you down as far as your energy bubble?
Mhm.
And to be honest, we know who's lifting us up and we know who's not.
Right.
And evaluating that and adding relationship, taking a look. So if we have 5 people and 4 of them are pulling us down, perhaps we need to move seats on the bus and add people that are going to help us move into a space that is for us.
Right.
And then there's also the concept of the board of directors. So just like in a nonprofit or an organization, corporate organization, there's a board of directors, someone
Yeah.
in charge of the VP, the vice president, treasury, finance. Why not have a board of directors for your personal life? Someone in charge of parenting, finances, career, all of those things, so that you have those different mentors in your world, both that you can speak to
Right.
and send a chat or text or meet with, and someone like you that you could, maybe they might not know you personally, but they can listen to your podcast.
Right.
And then your podcast becomes their board of directors.
Right.
What would Bob do? So, in at creating that board of directors, the other thing is that remember on board of directors, on boards, they are committed to a year or they're committed to 3 years and then they move off the board, right?
That's a
Same
good,
thing in
wow.
personal life.
Yeah.
You can take a look at your overall goals for 1, 3, and 5 years, and you can shift people. For me, I shift people every 90 days.
Wow.
So then I can say, okay, well, in this 90-day shift, I am working on health. All right. Who do I need to put on my board of directors in which to get closer to that overall goal of health in this 90-day increment? Now,
Right.
I might read a few books, go through a few different concepts, find what's right for me, practice that, And then in quarter 2, I may have maybe one health person on my list for my board of directors. I might add another one for just a little bit more spice. So how do you take a look at that board of directors and continually freshen it in relationship?
And that's a great concept because people, I mean, you try to clean out your garage maybe every year. Think about the same thing, it's clean out your old emails, I love the idea of a board of directors because if you think about that, it's a group of people, not just one saying the value of what the president, vice president of an organization are doing is valuable. And so it's a collective. I think that's a great, idea that you have there and that concept that we need to shift those around and we need to have that alternate perspective. It's not just, mom.
Mm-hmm.
Mom will love you, mom will tell you you're great all the time, most of the
Yes.
time, you know, but you need somebody to tell you, hey, that's not such a bright idea sometimes.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
and then be able to share it with you, hey, I did that and it worked out great or it didn't work out that great.
right,
And
right,
what's your overall goal? What do you want to get from this?
right.
And it served me, but it might not serve you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Notice the differences between, what they may have done and how it worked for them or didn't work. And it's a great reminder for people too, because times will change, interest rates, all kinds of things change. So it's not always going to be the same scenario from one person to the next.
Exactly.
Well, great. Now, one of the things too that I like is that you show people the positivity through challenges. And obviously you lived through that. So how does that benefit their character? And I think that it's going to drive to the next piece because I think that character is such a big phase in people's lives.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up because I was just having a conversation this morning about it. And having those challenges helps us to have a bit more gratitude,
Mhm.
have a bit more authentic and realistic conversations. And here's the thing, what goes up must come down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as we are navigating our careers, as we're navigating our life, taking a bit of humility,
Yeah.
say, you know, again, there is a spoiler alert. None of us get out alive.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Exactly. Oh,
what are you doing on this journey,
yeah.
and how are you reflecting and being self-aware and grateful for the experience?
Yeah.
So, for example, we've been through quite a bit in our humanity just the past 5 years,
Yeah.
and how do we navigate and say, okay, this is difficult.
Yeah.
I've gotten through, and what did I learn? What's the lesson?
Right.
And pulling the lesson out of that experience and using it, like I said before, for the next storm, because we're
Yeah.
not done.
Oh, yeah. I always find it interesting, and the quote I read, I forget where I read it, but it was talks about bull or buffalo and cows will go, they'll go away from a storm, but a buffalo will turn and go into the storm because they get through it faster.
Mhm.
And like you said, we're gonna have ups and downs. If we're not in a storm, we're coming out of one, and vice versa, and be prepared to go into one. And that positiveness through those challenges, I think that builds your strength. Do you think that adds to the overall character of somebody and their growth for, life in general?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And actually, as we do so, as we challenge our thought processes, what happens is that the gray matter in our brain, what we're doing is we're connecting, we're making new connections.
Right.
So when you take a positive twist toward a challenge, what we're doing is we're creating new neural connections and then allowing for the white matter to strengthen those neural connections. And so, yes, like you said, within creating positivity and then using identifying our building of character,
Yeah.
it makes us stronger. But it's not only within we think it's stronger. We're actually creating stronger neural connections in our brain.
Right. And that's not to be mistaken with callous. We're not callous. We're we're experienced, if you will.
Mhm.
And like you said, it's that idea. Okay, you appreciate things more. You have gratitude for certain things. You understand the struggle. You understand the strength it takes to achieve, and that will carry you better than staying in the doldrums of woe is me and woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Right. And that's wisdom. So I like
Yeah,
to say, as we're learning, we're acquiring knowledge. So like we read, we listen to a podcast, we listen to an audiobook, and then that's learning. Knowledge is when we practice it and then we
right.
start to, be able to learn, that becomes knowledge, and we be able to teach it back, that becomes knowledge. But wisdom is actually once we've taken that learning and that knowledge, we've fallen flat on our face
Yeah,
and
maybe
said,
more than
okay,
once.
right,
Yeah,
right? What did
yeah,
I learn?
yeah,
How can I find the good in this?
yeah,
And that is wisdom.
yeah. Wow. Great messages for everybody today. Well, Carolyn, where can people find out more about you, your website, your social media? Where can we get a hold of you?
Yes. So look me up, carolyncolleen.com. On my website, I have all of the different options to follow, to subscribe, to get my BFF method, all on carolyncolleen.com.
Great. Well, we will make sure people have that because I know you also have your links to your social media, so forth. And I appreciate some of those. I like the one picture you have of this is how my hair looks in the morning. It's
Yes,
just,
that's right.
it's real. Here we go. So
It's
thank you
real.
for that. So I really appreciate your insight today. I appreciate what you're doing for women out there, and appreciate your overall positivity in our world. We need that so much today. So thank you for being a guest on the Encouragement Engineering podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Great. Well, thank you, Carol. I appreciate it. Take care.
You too.